everyone, welcome back. Before we get started, please like and please subscribe for more notifications and updates and for future videos. So let's get right into the video. So this video is about the priestly duties of the 144,000. Pretty much everyone's heard of the 144,000. You can find them in Revelation chapter 7 and Revelation chapter 14. And so actually today we're going to look at the book of Revelation and see how in the book of Revelation it actually describes the 144,000 as being priests to God. So when we look at the 144,000 in the book of Revelation, they're actually described in ways that in the Bible, the only priests are described earlier. There are actually a lot of parallels between the 144,000 and what the Levitical priests do. However, there's definitely differences because the 144,000 is a heavenly priesthood. The Levitical priests, obviously, are only from the tribe of Levi. And in the heavenly priesthood, it includes all the tribes and not just Levi. And as the word of God says, the people of God, that would mean, you and me, we're also part of a priesthood. So the 144,000 in a way, they're like a priesthood within a priesthood. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at Revelation chapter 14, 1 through 5, and I'm just going to break down with you all every single thing it says, and I'm going to show you all how in the word of God these are actually priestly duties that the 144,000 are doing. Then I looked, and behold, on Mount Zion stood the Lamb, and with him the 144,000 who had his name and his Father's name written on their foreheads. And I heard a voice from heaven like the roar of many waters and the sound of loud thunder. The voice I heard was like the sound of harpists playing on their harps, and they were singing a new song before the throne and before the four living creatures and before the elders. No one could learn that song except the 144,000 who had been redeemed from the earth. It is these who have not defiled themselves with women, for they are virgins. It is these who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. These have been redeemed from mankind as first fruits for God and the Lamb. And in their mouth no lie was found, for they are blameless. So now that we read that verse, let's go back in and dissect the verse. And I'm going to show you in this verse where it shows the priestly duties. So let's look at verse 1, for example. It says, "Then I looked, and behold, on Mount Zion stood the Lamb, and with him the 144,000 who had his name and his Father's name written on their foreheads." So who in the Bible do we know who wore God's name on them? Well, if you watch the video that I released previously, it's called Jesus and the Priestly Blessing, then you'll know that the priestly blessing, it was said over all of Israel, but also that the high priest wore the name of God physically on him on a crown on his forehead. So this is how we can see that the 144,000 are doing something, or God's given them something that's priestly because they're wearing the name of God on their foreheads. So in this sense, they are bearing the name of God. Now let's look at the second way that the 144,000 are like priests. So then it says, "And they were singing a new song before the throne and before the four living creatures and before the elders." So this is like priests because how? Well, actually in the temple, in the tabernacle, there were Levitical priests and their specialty was to play music and worship to God. And so this is exactly what the 144,000 are doing. They're playing a specific song, they're playing music before God, and nobody can do it except for the 144,000. So this is the second way that the 144,000 are like priests. Okay, now let's look at the third way that the 144,000 are like priests to God. So let's go back and look at the verse where it said, "They had not defiled themselves, and they are virgins." So people might think that this literally means that the 144,000 have to be actual literal virgins, but it actually doesn't. Think of, for example, the parable of the 10 wise virgins, right? And we know that that represents the church. Does that mean that everybody in the church to get into heaven has to be a virgin? No, it doesn't. You don't have to be a literal virgin to get into the wedding supper of the Lamb. What it's saying is that spiritually, they're virgins. Spiritually, they're clean, and that they haven't been defiled. So remember in the Bible, spiritual adultery is also worshiping other gods. So it's not just having, it's not just physically committing adultery, even in your heart, even though that is wrong, but spiritual adultery in God's eyes is also worshiping other gods. So basically what this Bible verse is saying is that the 144,000 are loyal to Yahweh alone. And this is also why it says they follow the Lamb wherever he goes, because they're completely loyal to Jesus. An extra tidbit that's really interesting about this third way that the 144,000 are like priests is that we know from reading the word that the Watchers, which are also known as the fallen angels, they defiled themselves with women, right? So they had sexual relationships with human women, which is something they were not supposed to do. So in a way, God is replacing the Watchers, which are the fallen angels, with the 144,000. And this is why God is saying that the 144,000 are pure, they're virgins, is because the Watchers were not, and they were supposed to be. Okay, now let's look at the fourth way that the 144,000 are like priests. So this scene actually in Revelation 14 that's seen by John, remember when he sees them on Mount Zion. So Mount Zion, as we know, it's not on earth. This is a heavenly vision that John is having. And I'm not the only one who says this. Other people, other scholars, other Bible teachers know this as well. So in this heavenly vision, he sees the 144,000 on Mount Zion. So what does Mount Zion have to do with priests? Well, I'll tell you, because the temple was in essence supposed to be on Mount Zion. It's supposed to represent Eden. And Eden, if we read Genesis, it says that it was on a mountain. Eden was on a mountain. And I'll post the verse also so you can see that the river of life flowed downwards. So that means Eden had to be upward. It was on a mountain. And so it states that the Lamb and the 144,000 are on Mount Zion. So Mount Zion in Hebrew thought is always related to the temple and to the tree of life. This is why the next verse says, I heard a voice from heaven, because to John, this is a heavenly scene and they're in heaven. Mount Zion is also in ancient Judaism, like I said, the location of the tree of life. Also to an ancient Israelite, the place where God would have lived would have been on a mountain. Now, if you look at other ancient civilizations, they also believe that their gods actually lived in mountains and in gardens. And this is just copying of what God has already revealed. And these demons, these fallen angels, are stealing from God and influencing other cultures and religions. And the number 5 way that the 144,000 are like priests unto God, in the end times, they are going to fight against the Antichrist. That the Levites, they went to war, but not in the same way that the other tribes went to war. So their job was to bring the presence of God first, and then the other tribes, in the order that God wanted them to go, would go out into war to fight the enemy. So in the end days, the 144,000 as priests unto God, they'll also go to war against the Antichrist. So these are all 5 ways that the 144,000 are given priestly duties in the book of Revelation. I'm going to also post a link in the description box if you want to read more deeply. And it's actually really, really interesting. So I'll post the link so you can see it. Please like, comment, and I will see you in the next video. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.